Sitting in front of a doctor at the age of 13 was something that I had never seen myself doing, especially my freshman year of high school. I mean, aren't we all supposed to be our healthiest in our teenage years? I mean, really, we're supposed to be able to run, jump, whatever it is that we want to do. We're not supposed to be sitting in front of a doctor as they explain to us that we have an unknown or a quiet illness or disorder. Little did I know at that time that there are other teenagers exactly like me that was suffering from the exact same disorder. And little did I know that this journey of mine was going to take me throughout my entire years of high school. It was a long, hard journey. I mean, being diagnosed, battling, and even living through anorexia throughout my adolescent years, I began to do research myself just to find out just a little bit more about an illness that no one knew about. I mean, really, would you even know how to recognize if someone has anorexia? No one really even knows about the disease or the illness or what symptoms are even there. Actually, most of us have no clue how hard it is to treat or how soon you should treat it or what the prognosis would be if we waited a really long time to treat it. So, here's what we're going to look at. What is anorexia nervosa? So we're going to start off with just a few simple things. According to, as this says, Jonathan Espy and Ivan Eisler, anorexia nervosa affects our entire body. Every part, every aspect of our body. Anorexia focuses the disruptive nature that it actually is across our entire body. So Derek Botha, in 2015, he described it as a neurotic loss of appetite. What is a neurotic loss of appetite? Well, is it something that we actually make up in our own minds? Essentially, yes. We are automatically thinking that our weight isn't right. We're comparing ourselves against other children, against other adults, against the supermodel on television. So we think that what shape we have, it's just not good enough. And we have a tendency to keep looking at everything around us. We're never happy. We actually, sometimes, it is something that causes depression. Or maybe our depression is what caused us to have our eating disorder to begin with. So what actually makes us even know that we have anorexia? How did my mother, when she looked at me at the age of 13, have any type of clue, any indication that I was suffering with some type of illness? Well, it's just not something that you look for every day. Of course, you can see whenever someone is losing weight, or they just don't feel right, or they're just not eating like they normally do. Fine. Sure, that's easy enough. However, if you're looking at a friend that you watch every day, how do you know that they have this disorder? It's so quiet, it kind of creeps up on them. So we're going to go with some of the signs and symptoms that we may be able to look for. One of the first things that you'll look for is a fluctuation in someone's weight. Of course, not every day we're going to want to eat a huge full meal. We just don't feel like it. However, whenever you have a friend or a family member, a daughter, a brother, an uncle, an aunt, a grandparent, that their weight is constantly shifting up and down without some other known reason, then maybe we need to step back, and look at something. So some of the actual symptoms that we may see, or the signs, is exactly what we will look for, is whenever they are being especially picky about what they are eating. Maybe they don't want to eat at all, or maybe if they start to try to eat, they'll just move the food around in their plate, never really consuming anything major. So whenever we start noticing these small signs, then we start noticing other things. Perhaps they are really weak. Perhaps they they're exercising excessively. Maybe they're taking medications that are trying to keep them from eating, or maybe they're taking medications to keep it to where they are losing weight dramatically, really fast. Laxatives are a really popular item among teenagers, they can buy them over the counter. There's nothing there that restricts them from buying them. So it's easy for them to get this type of medicine. So another thing is perhaps they purge, or in someone else, maybe they're causing themselves to vomit day in and day out, especially after they've eaten a really large meal. Sometimes they'll go days without eating a lot, and then maybe perhaps late at night they will binge eat, and then the next day they'll start over just to try and counter the calories that they've eaten that day. They are not, just in a nutshell, they are not only not eating, but they are trying to control everything. They are trying to make sure that their weight keeps going down and down without someone else recognizing the problems that they have. Now, whenever someone is actually treated, or I shouldn't say treated, maybe perhaps you start noticing some of these problems that they're having. You take them to the doctor, there is more than just psychological complications. There is more than just losing weight. Because when someone loses an excessive amount of weight, what happens to their body? It starts to change. And as Eisler actually came out and said, it affects every part of our body. Cardiac, pulmonary, respiratory, every aspect of our body it affects. Generally speaking, our cardiac, most of the time it will cause a dysrhythmia of the heart. It will cause an increase of blood pressure, sometimes a decrease in blood pressure. You'll have heart palpitations. These things, the list goes on and on and on. And a lot of the times, whenever you have these complications, you wouldn't think, well, you'll think, well, maybe I'll just eat for just a little while, or that I'll stop eating for a while, and it's not going to affect me. It affects you not just then, but a lot of the time it affects you way into the future. But one of the scariest, it's not even just one, it is the scariest thing that is related to anorexia is the fact that, believe it or not, according to Epstein and Eisler, individuals between the ages of 15 and 29, this is what causes the highest suicidal rate in these ages. Of course, there are different aspects that is associated with suicide during this time period. However, the reason for most suicides for 15 to 29 is as a result of anorexia and things that are associated with eating disorders. So we'll go on to the next thing. Of course, we have the complications. Those are the physical aspects of anorexia. We've already discussed the neurological aspects, the physical, the physiological. The list is you can't even begin to sum it up in just a small period of time, because it honestly affects every aspect of your life. The older even that you get, you start even thinking about weight loss, or if you're gaining too much weight, if you're losing too much weight, you become obsessed with it. And this is really what it is. It's an obsession. It's an obsession with your weight, neurologically. However, it affects you physically and physiologically. So, after we've gone to the doctor, we've been diagnosed, we know that we have a problem. So how do we treat this? Of course, we have to accept it. Of course, at this point, some of us may have already gone to the point that we cannot go on without medical intervention in our systems. For instance, we've caused complications within our heart, our respiratory systems, even our kidneys and our digestive tracts are not even the same. So what do? We have to go to the doctor to have treatment for these things. And this is just a small portion of it. Because what happens beyond this point, we don't even know how to eat anymore. We don't know what we're supposed to weigh. We don't know how to take care of ourselves. So we have to have this medical treatment. And then we have to have our nutritional counseling that teaches us how to eat again, that teaches us how to take care of ourselves. Because at this point, we've exercised excessively. We've eaten things that we shouldn't have eaten. We've actually are not eaten enough. So we've lost a lot of nutrients. We've lost a lot of vitamins. And we've gotten our bodies into a shape that we can no longer function without some form of medical intervention. So, how do we treat the other aspects? Of course, we've got medical treatment. That actually comes in and makes sure that we are physically taken care of. Nutritional, that is physical as well. That allows a nutritionist to come in and make sure that we are eating properly. But where did this come from? Just from the beginning, it came from here. So we have to make sure that we are treated psychologically as well. Actually, that is the biggest part of the treatment in anorexia. Our treatment, according to Derek Botha, of the psychological systems is the hardest, because we have to accept that we have this problem, and sometimes we have gone so far into the disease that we no longer know how to take care of ourselves mentally either. So we have to start from this point. Sometimes it's required to take medications that will allow us to be treated for whatever psychological complications that may have spurred the eating disorder to begin with. Actually, another really popular therapy is cognitive behavioral therapy. We will have to go in and find out what triggers it, and when we find out what triggers it, we try and find another method or another behavior that will keep us from going back to that point. The list goes on. The psychotherapy that we really need to take in the process of this can cause, or can hopefully lead us into the direction we need to be in order to be healthy again. So, just to kind of conclude everything and to go over what we have talked about, anorexia nervosa is something that many people don't even understand. It's a really quiet disease. People don't talk about it. They don't come in and say, oh yeah, I'm starving myself because I'm trying to lose weight, or I need to exercise a whole lot because I ate that brownie for breakfast. We don't like talking about it. We don't like accepting the fact that we're always comparing ourselves to other people. And then sometimes we have gotten to the point that we become obsessed with our physical appearance. This obsession comes from here, but it affects us from here all the way to our feet. Sometimes the different forms of treatment that they have already established to be really good for some people are not effective for other people. And this makes it really hard because every person is unique and every person's situation is different from the next person's. Every therapy, every piece of therapy that has actually been designed for one person is unique to that person. Just because the therapy that worked for me, that doesn't mean that it's going to work for the person that was sitting next to me in the waiting room. The fact remains that people just don't pay enough attention anymore either. How are we going to get past this point? Today, actually, whenever someone says they have anorexia or they have an eating disorder, it's encouraged. We don't even look at the signs and symptoms anymore because we just want to be skinny and thin, and we don't care how we feel. We don't care how it's affecting our bodies or our minds even into the future, or even at how it can affect the lives of our children, because we ignore things. So, I'm sure that many of you are wondering what anorexia has to do with you. You can say, I love food. Okay, I do too. However, whenever you get to a certain point, sometimes your mind does things that you don't want it to do. And what happens if your child comes to you and you start finding that she is losing weight or he is losing weight, and it's too much, they're getting sick? That affects you. What if it's your niece, nephew? What if it is just a really good friend's daughter? All of this affects you in some way or another. And you know the thing is, as a mother, I could not even imagine the effects that it could have on my children or their children. And it happens every day. We ignore it every day. Children get sick every day because we simply don't know. We need to try and spread the awareness so that we can make it so that the adolescent child that's 13 knows that if she's not eating, that it can hurt her. If I hadn't had someone pay that much attention to me, care that much for me whenever I was young, then I would have been a statistic too.